It has started.
Perfect. All right, so welcome to the CHAOSS Common Metrics Working Group meeting for April 16th. As I mentioned, I do have to drop off halfway through, so is there a volunteer, somebody who wants to run the meeting?
Well, sure. I mean, I can always do it.
Cool.
I'm equipped. So, hi. Do you want me to start now?
Yeah, it's probably easier than transitioning,
Sure.
I guess.
So the link is provided. So if everybody could head over to the doc, that would be great. Drop your name in. Tell us how you're doing. Regrettably, it might actually snow here in Omaha today, like 4 inches.
No way. It still looks nice outside. It cannot be snowing.
Very, very bad. um, so today, let's take a look here. So review comments on metric we have. All right, so for those of you that aren't kind of tracking this, Common is one of the working groups that is, I guess, kind of taking part in the continuous metric contribution process. So this is a way for us to release metrics on a kind of on a faster cadence than the every 6 month cadence. So the way that it works, and we've kind of been working through this, is the metrics themselves will be released. We'll get them up on the web page, and there will actually be a small temporary disclaimer on that metric that will just say this metric was part of the continuous release. It'll and is capable of actually changing during that small window before the 6 month official release or the 6 month release. So that's kind of the process that we're going to go through here. So I think what is this agenda item is trying to put closure to this metric, giving Kevin the green light to get this metric up onto the website such that it's part of that continuous release. And then come July or whenever we do our next 6 month cadence release, it'll kind of be hardened at that point or kind of put to closure at that point. Are there questions on that process?
And I think in the last meeting, this is probably a poorly worded agenda item. I think in the last meeting we did decide that the metric was final and that we're ready for it to be released. But I think we were trying to remember, we were talking to Kevin about the best way to do this. Is there anything else you need from us, Kevin? Sorry, you might need to refresh my memory on what we talked about last week.
So in the community meeting this week, we kind of hashed out some of the minor details. So I think there are two things that we would need from the work group for the metrics release. One is we need to add a label to the top of the metrics page that states what Matt had said earlier. And then the other thing is you need to create a metrics release issue in your working group repository, just to collect all of the notes so that we can compile a research notes, or I'm sorry, not a research notes, a release notes document at the regular release. So just a place to capture the release notes.
Okay, and so that's in addition to the issue that we had for the feedback on the metric itself. The release notes should be a separate issue.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think the way we were talking about it, it can be a release notes issue that captures the entire discussion of your release notes. So if you have a future metric that you're releasing, you can capture the release notes for that in that issue as well.
Okay.
So I put the disclaimer that we came up with in the community call in the minutes here.
Cool.
And then other than that, I suppose there needs to be some sort of notification process, which I don't know if that's just a shout out to me or a shout out onto the the email list to say that it's going live. But either way, I can at that point I would once the message is on there, I will take the metric live onto the website.
Okay, so do you want to just send the message to the list after you put it on the website? To the mailing list?
Oh, the message to
Just the notification. I assume that's just an email to the mailing list that says, hey, this has been released, this is where it is? Or did you mean something else?
You meant a notification to Kevin. Like, did
yeah.
this
Oh, yeah, okay.
just
Nope, totally makes sense. So you want us to notify you after we've done the release notes and added the disclaimer.
Either that or just send a general announcement out to the list, not directed to me. It doesn't have to be directed to me. Just something that would make us aware that it's ready to go onto the website.
I like that approach of just saying, hey, we closed the review period, it's ready for release. And then once it's on the website, Kevin, you could reply to that email and have a document on the mailing list saying, hey, it's now available under this URL.
Yes, that would be fine.
I love that approach.
Okay, cool.
And then for future reference on these, we are updating the governance document to reflect all of these steps.
Okay. So I guess we need to get this done.
I could probably take the action item. I have some time tomorrow. I can do these 3 things tomorrow.
Okay. It
If
shouldn't.
that's all
I
right with
mean,
people. Unless
this
somebody
part.
wants to do it today.
I mean, if depending on when we finish here, I could probably do it today. How about this? I'll try to do it today, and if I do, then I'll ping you in the. Actually, it'd be really easy. While we're here, could we just for the release notes, what do we want to say? Because if we could just write this up now, then I can get it up in the issue. So, I mean, the release this is a new metric.
Yeah, I mean this is the first revision of this metric. There's not really much for the release notes because there's not really much it's just one metric and it's just new.
Yeah. Part of continuous release contribution. I mean, honestly, that's about it, right? What I
Yeah.
just put there.
Can anybody else think of anything else we should put in the release notes? Are we missing anything? Cool.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, okay. If it's that simple, then yes, I can probably squeeze out the 4 minutes that is needed to get these 2 things done.
Cool.
And this will, okay. Okay. And that'll help because the next thing is to review action items from the previous week, and I didn't do mine from the previous week, and so I'll look at, or from the previous 2 weeks ago. If you scroll down to the meeting minutes from April 2nd, there were 3 people that had action items. Myself,
Me.
Sean,
And me. I also did not do mine.
I'm guilty. Guilty as charged. Also, like I didn't want. I wanted to be part of the group, so I didn't do mine. Otherwise, I would have. But
You didn't want to show us up, right?
yeah, no, exactly.
So can I ask that you relook at these? And I'm pointing at myself as well, right?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just add these back to the agenda to look at again next week.
Thank you.
The other thing that's not on the agenda that we should probably do is look at pull requests. Because there was a pull request and I'll be honest, I'm not sure what to do with it.
Oh,
We can close it. I had some of my students have one of their choices to be create a metric inside of a CHAOSS working group. We've had a couple of really good ones in evolution, but if we have a bad one, I can close it with the comments.
Well, let's have a look at it if you guys
Okay.
don't mind.
Sure.
I think at least show the courtesy of responding to it and engaging the student in a conversation, even if
Right.
it leads to the conclusion that this is not a metric
Review, okay.
Yeah.
that is helpful.
Do you want to, since I have to drop in a couple of minutes, does somebody want to share their screen with that pull request and we
Yeah.
can just all look at it together?
Yeah, I'm trying to get to the word WG common. But if someone beats me to it, feel free to. Oh, it's the only pull request. Okay, add files. Yeah, upload.
Sure.
Okay, here you go.
Okay.
All right, and we'll click files change. Let's see what. I think it's an interesting metric, but it's not really one that we can answer. Is it? I mean, it would require survey information, I guess, is the challenge.
Yeah, and yeah, I just wasn't sure what to do with this. Is it, I'm not sure if it's in the, I'm not sure if it's in the right category. I mean, it didn't seem so off base that I was like, wow, this makes no sense at all.
No,
I'm
I'm
just not,
curious. I'm curious about it. I don't
yeah.
know how I would write a piece of software to get this information. I mean, I
Well,
could
and
write.
we don't have to. We have loads of metrics defined in other working groups that there's no software that can gather the
That's
data.
true. That's true.
DNI is like that.
So in the gaming world, you do have like test scores, and you can have a little test run on your gaming PC to rank it, and then the result is being uploaded, and so it's not out of the world.
No, yeah, I don't think it's out of the world. I agree.
And so what
But
I
it
find
has,
striking is I've never thought about hardware diversity
Mm,
as a metric for community health.
I haven't either.
No,
Mhm.
and is this
Yeah.
referred to the host machine? Or what if you do embedded development?
Yeah.
I mean, it has a very different meaning if you develop for your main computer or you develop on your computer for an embedded machine. So
Yeah,
what is the hardware diversity here? Is it the Lenovo or Asus or ThinkPad, or is it the Dragon Board or BeagleBone or Arduino or whatever?
So there, I don't know, would we add a filter for, I mean, if we wanted to, take this metric under consideration, would that just be a filter on the hardware role or something where, is it for development, is it for deployment, that kind of thing?
Another angle could be the supported CPU architectures for an open source project.
Mhm.
Is it x86, x86 AM64? Is it ARM? Is it PowerPC? Then yeah, it could become an interesting avenue to look into.
Can I make a comment? So I know that the word hardware diversity is in the title, and I am actually wondering if this would be something that D&I could talk about. And I'm thinking of this concept of the politics of technology, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And not politics like political, but like what's embedded in a technology. And so, for example, with a lot of the homeschooling that's going on right now, the students being home, there's a lot of real limitations that folks have if they don't have Wi-Fi at home, if they have a shared computer in the house, and what that does to inherently limit people's ability to get schoolwork done. And it continues to create a class separation of haves and have-nots. And I outreachy approaches this issue as well. I'm talking about what are the minimum requirements, technology requirements necessary to get work done in your project. And I'm wondering, like almost from an inclusion perspective, if open source communities have really fairly high technical barriers to have in front of them to even be a participant in that community. So there's certain styles of machines you have to have, there's certain pieces of software you have to have, there's
Yeah,
you need to have, otherwise you just can't do it.
Yeah,
Especially
like I
when you
would,
move into projects that are infrastructure, where you need to have the infrastructure to test and run it on.
and there's the corresponding question of if you're doing open source work, it's almost a lot of it's very difficult to do if you're not operating some kind of Linux or Unix based system. Like if you're on Windows, it's very hard to do open source development.
So I'm wondering if this is something that could be offered over to DNI as an issue of inclusion. I have never thought about this either, and it is something that does exist in
Yeah,
as a way of thinking
yeah.
the limitations that technology puts on people being able to participate.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but that's certainly your example of students being at home and having wide technology gaps is very real. And I think the same technology gap exists for any kid who'd want to get involved in open source, right? They've got to have a certain level of computer and a certain level of internet connection to do anything.
So, Sean, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Since this is part of a class project, are you expecting your students to follow up with any feedback and work with the community?
Yep, I am.
So
we could
based on the discussion, we could suggest in the comments, 1, please fix the DCO if you resubmit. 2, this seems to be more appropriate for the DNI. Would you mind opening a pull request there? And 3, we'd like to see a comment in the pull request for explaining a little bit why you're submitting this and what this is doing, because right now the pull request message is empty. So those are the 3 pieces of feedback that I would send.
I'm writing that comment right now.
Cool. And I almost wonder if this should be 2 metrics. So one is like on the DNI side and inclusivity as it relates to the hardware that's available to people. But is there another aspect of this that should be in another working group? For example, around like I don't know.
What's your thought? You seem
Well,
like
because I'm looking and this, like we immediately went to the inclusivity of what it takes to develop, but that's not really anywhere in here. I guess let me reframe this. I'm wondering what the person who submitted this really intended for this metric. Like, do they really mean it from an inclusivity standpoint, or do they really mean it from some other aspect that maybe we're not understanding based on just reading the metric? Because it says, like the objectives determine what effects hardware has on development.
And I think it's really more determined. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's something I'm missing that this, parts of this should actually be in maybe a different metric with maybe a slightly different
that's
title.
because talking about hardware as a barrier to joining it's not in this text.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe that could be a 4th question or a 4th thing, add the DCO, perhaps this in DNI. And maybe just in that comment, explain why this has appeared and what the motivation for this is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because looking at the objectives, things like determine if hardware has an effect on frequency of development. you could conceivably put some kind of, I don't know, some kind of statistical model behind whether or not your, I don't know, if you have better hardware, do you have more commits? I don't know. But that's what kind of like determine if hardware has an effect on the frequency of development. That's what I think of.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Sean,
don't know.
can you add those comments? Are you doing
I
that?
am doing it right now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Can we think of frequent like effect on the development or the productivity, not just development?
I think this is, I don't think we know the answer to that. Okay.
Yeah, because I think why I'm struggling with this is because this seems like it's kind of all over the board. There's a whole lot of stuff in this, and it's not really clear how it kind of ties together. Like questions like, is your hardware portable?
Yeah.
Um, speed and ergonomics.
Right. So like keyboard and mouse is kind of an question to me. But memory speed, totally
Yeah, I don't know.
different. Okay. I don't think RAM capacity is an ergonomic question. Okay. Cool.
Does this help, Sean?
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. By the way, I did look at Zoom as cloud recordings and the ability to share a screen and keep a grid view of all people.
That doesn't happen.
Can't happen. So, because right now, if we share a screen, it shows the video of the person talking.
I see. Who's sharing their screen or the person talking?
So if I'm sharing my screen and you're talking, it would show you. But
Okay.
I looked, because like right now it's recording in grid view. It's just, this is more, I don't know why I'm bringing this up in common, but I just,
No, there's,
I've been looking into this, but
Yeah, it's something that bothers me about Zoom as well.
it would be nice if we could have the grid view and a shared screen. That would be the most optimal.
Well, I have a thought on that.
Oh, okay. Should we
When
talk?
I, so this is not a simple solution, but when I go to my recordings in Zoom in the cloud, I have different videos that I can download. I can download the shared screen view.
Yes.
I can download the shared screen view with a picture overlaid for the speaking person.
Yep.
And I can also download just the speaking person. And there's another video with a grid of all videos. And so one thing that we could do is take two videos and merge them. Take just the shared screen plus the grid view and edit the videos together.
I'll put that on potential community manager job.
That sounds like a lot of work for little reward.
Actually,
yeah.
nobody has noticed, but I've actually included the CHAOSS logo now on all.
I have. I've noticed. I did notice that had started to occur.
An opening screen that actually shows you the working group. So I was really happy that I was able to do that.
Yeah, I thought that was. I've noticed that, and I think that's amazing. It's very nice.
Yeah. How are you editing? I was wondering how you're editing.
Just using iMovie.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So that's. I think I'm pushing the bounds of what I can do.
So one thing we might think about as far as connecting the video to the document is when after we record and we say, welcome to the meeting, we usually put the link of the document in the chat, but that link isn't available in the chat for the video either. So perhaps we could just mention where the viewer can see the document. Right?
Okay.
Like, welcome to Common. The agenda document is available on the website and the link is in the chat.
Let me
Something
see.
like that.
add that in iMovie without melting my brain.
I don't
that-
think
yeah,
it
that-
needs
that
to
would
be
work too.
in. Yeah, I don't think it needs to be in the video though. I think if it's just in the section below the video as a show note or
I'll just add it as a comment in the video, the link to the minutes.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay.
We're becoming so professional. It's amazing.
All right. Let's see. So the next item, I'm moving on from that. We reviewed the PRs. Thank you, Sean, for providing that feedback. I don't know if you provided it already.
I'm in the middle of it, yeah.
Okay. We do have the chaos metric spreadsheet that was next on the list. So I think if you click on that link, put it here in the chat.
So I'm gonna go ahead and drop off and go to my other meeting since we're in between agenda items.
Thanks for joining us. See ya.
Bye.
So here's the link to the spreadsheet. So this is our wonderful tracking spreadsheet. I'll share my screen here real briefly. So I think at this point we're done. Types of contributions is no longer under community review. Call it ready. So really at this point, I think we're just kind of waiting on those for me to get those, whatever, the comments and all that stuff up, the issue up, and then Kevin, once you're done, kind of just ping back and we'll change the state of that. So you can see we have a couple other metrics that we have started. So we have time to close, I guess, is the only one that has a Google Doc associated with it. And actually, it makes me wonder, were these action items here with particular metrics? You know what I mean? Code review is bullet after coding, commits. Does anybody understand my question? So we have the spreadsheet here, right? Which is tracking common metrics that are in development. So for example, Sean.
Yes.
I'll pick on you. So Sean, you have this action item from last week, which is
Language.
distribution.
Yeah, within a project, yep.
New metric.
Mm-hmm.
It is?
Yeah. But
Okay.
no, wait a minute. It should be on the sheet.
Language distribution. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, and I actually think there is a Google Doc.
Update this. Correct?
Yep.
Okay. What is, so Dawn's is commits, is that in here? Code changes.
I think the conversation we had that resulted in this action item
Yeah.
was that we were talking about the what in category
Okay.
Yeah,
in our metrics,
right.
what types of contributions, and we said commit is so essential that we should define this, and then we stalled because we know evolution has already done a lot of work on defining commits. And so this action item for Dawn is to look at evolution and see if there was something we wanted to move into common or if there's something we wanted to add on top of that based on the conversation we had.
I see. So it's not necessarily to just build a new metric immediately. It's to get a little bit on what is occurring. Okay. I'm gonna add that. So seeing if there is anything that can be pulled from evolution. Is that right?
Yes, so that we have a common definition of a commit as part of our what category focus group.
Can you fix my sentences there?
Yep.
What you had said. Okay, so then mine was to update metric to add code review as a bullet after coding. I have no idea what that means.
So I went back to the meeting from April 2nd, where this action item originated from. And the action item was under the metric that just went through the continuous metric contribution feedback cycle. And so there was one edit to be made to that specific metric.
We have already done it.
Well, if you've already done it, then that's great.
I did my action item. Let me take a look. Let me take a look. Did I do it? To add code review as a bullet point after coding.
So we have reviewing code as part of the list, writing code and reviewing code.
Where are you? What are you looking at?
Oh, I am here in types of contributions in the markdown file that we have in the repository.
Okay, I was looking at the Google Doc here for a second.
Yeah, I think we already moved out of the Google Doc and contributed it to the repository.
Okay.
So the work in the Google Doc is complete. We should put a disclaimer there.
So yeah, can you finish that out for me?
Yes, I'm in the document.
Yeah, I saw you. Okay, so let me show people what's going on here. So basically, so the process by which we were doing this is, right, we were working in the Google document originally because it's a little bit faster to work in, and then once we've kind of rounded out this metric, we move it over to GitHub just to help with getting it into the web page. And so I had an item and I was looking at the list and seeing that the change had been made. So, and thank you very much, Georg, for getting me back in the headspace on what was supposed to be done. But the change was actually made here in GitHub. So all good. Okay, good. So actually, I'm like, can I strike mine through? I don't know how to do strike through. We're done.
Strike through is Command-Shift-X.
I'll remember that for the next 10 seconds. Cool. All right. So I guess at this point, I guess it really probably sounds like Sean, you'll be the kind of the lead for the one metric to work on, which is language distribution. You're muted.
I was saying yes, but I had muted myself.
Is there anything in space?
Outer space or?
Space or anything in outer space? In the space, so in Common, right, we have these 4 different focus areas: people, who, what, when, and where. So the people, the contribution, the time, and the space.
So what comes to mind when I think of where and space in terms of open source are the collaboration platforms that are being used. So are there email lists? Are there instant messaging platforms like IRC and Slack? Do we use Git or Subversion? God forbid that still exists. So those are the kinds of things that I'm thinking about when I hear where and space.
Okay. Anybody, I mean, again, just capturing ideas here. Is this also geographic? I spelled Georg too often.
I think that is more about the contributors. It's not about the
It's the who.
project. That's the who, I think.
Okay.
Like organizational diversity, geographic diversity. But that's my opinion. I could be,
Where?
there might be an argument against that and to have it here.
So the one I had proposed, right, was geographic diversity is a where issue. So essentially where people are located. And Georg was suggesting that it might be more appropriate with who.
We already have contributor location there.
We could look at where infrastructure is located or where events are located. Although events might butt up against the DNI event metrics.
But I think it's different here. If we are asking what are the location of events, I don't think we have covered that in diversity inclusion.
No, I think the DNI are about the event itself, like internal to the event.
Geographic location of events can be an access issue.
It could. Well, let's jot it down here anyway. Yeah, thank you.
And
The same thing. Had a few rows here.
maybe in my opinion, I think, for example, we open source software in different Git. For example, GitHub, GitLab, and Chinese GitHub. You can see Gitty. For example, we open source project, both all of the Git, code club. So I think it's a different platform for us to gather to collaboration. So Jill said that I think it's a choose to collaboration with different people, but I think for example, our company's open source is open to the several different code hub. Do you understand me? Yeah.
I just put it down as where the software is released, which I think is different than where what Georg was talking about, where the collaboration is done. They could be similar. But
Yes.
I think that's a good point, King. Thank you. All right.
You're welcome.
Good. Any other thoughts here? Gosh, 3. We went from 0 to 3. That's good. All right.
I have one suggestion where the software is hosted, also like hosting of the softwares, the cloud platform, something like that.
So is that different than where it's released?
Yes.
I think that's related to the infrastructure one I had mentioned as well. Right? Where is the infrastructure located?
So when you say
where this
is that
where's this?
Is it a hosting issue?
So
yeah. Where are the servers? Where's the technology that the project is hosted on?
Okay. maybe that captures what Vinod was talking about.
Yes, yeah.
I think in terms of like if we say infrastructure, like technology infrastructure, which is inclusive of hosting and other things.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's a subtle difference between that infrastructure and the collaboration platforms.
Okay.
Yes.
But I think there's definitely.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, and they might be similar, but they might be different as well. So, okay, great. All right, cool. Any other comments on this? Nothing to necessarily work on right now. These are all just brainstorming. To think about in future meetings. All right, cool. Moving on. Time to close metric. Time to close metric. All right, so can we...
That's a metric that Daniel has been working on. And I think now that the Inner Source Common Summit is over, we can probably ping him and get more input from him again.
So do you want to defer this for a second?
No, we can certainly work on this.
Okay. Yeah, we have old, this is the old. Template. All right, so we spend just a few minutes on the time to close metric. So this is a metric associated with time, and I'm guessing it's in common because there are several things that can be closed. So it's a way of thinking about closing whatever might be closed. What is under implementation? What is our data? Is it data collection strategies? Is that what it is?
We have data collection strategies, yes.
Okay.
But we don't need that section specifically if that's the only subsection.
Are these subsections anymore? Tools, these? They're still there.
Let me pull up the template.
Okay. Hold on a second. I have a...
Okay. So the template has implementation and subheadings, filters, visualizations, tools providing the metric, and data collection strategies in that order.
And are they all optional?
Yes, all subheadings are optional.
Okay. Known instance. Guessing these are these. Could I ask people to, we had apparently made it through the end of objectives last time on this metric. Could I ask people to take, I'll put this in the chat. I don't know where my chat is. Where's chat when you share a screen?
You have this bar where you can stop sharing, and there's also a button for
This.
opening the chat in that big long bar with the green
Yep, I know what you're talking about. So can people head over here real quickly? I mean, even if we just took like 5 minutes. And to me, it might be useful if we take a look at just the description and the objectives again with time to close. I know I said we had made it through that last time, but I think that was towards the end, kind of like where we're at here. So what would be really cool is if we could put just a little bit of closure, kind of a sign off on the time to close description and time to close objectives. So I'm gonna stop talking for a second and give people 5 minutes to just kind of read through those and do any edits or changes that they would like to do. Honestly, it reads pretty well to me. I know that's only been 1 minute, but
As I was reading this, the light went on in my head. Was like, oh, I remember talking about this, working on this.
yeah, actually pretty well as far as I can say through the objectives. So if I was to think through the visualizations and tools providing the metrics, Sean, I'm guessing that Augur certainly provides some insights on time to close, whether it's around an issue or request.
Oh, yeah, we have a ton of endpoints that are actually in release, not either going to be released or in release already. I think the biggest, and mostly, yeah, we have time to close metrics for both issues, pull requests, or code. I assume code review is just review. Is it like under description?
Yeah.
Those are reviews, because a review is what we call a pull request, and a code review is something different entirely. And I don't think we're doing time to close with code reviews, because that's not closing anything.
So just say issue, review, or support ticket.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Oh yeah, I can. I'm seeing it. Somebody highlighted it, but I can also delete it. Boom. I don't know if we deleted it together or I deleted it.
So Sean, could you, in like the 1 minute, do you have some API endpoints from Augur?
I'd have to go find them. And I don't know if I can do that in a minute. But, let's see.
Even if it's just time to close an issue. Georg, is that something from Grimoire Lab?
That is, yeah, I was just looking for the unmute button. I went to the CHAOSS community dashboard and just found visualization that fit here.
And I assume this is average time to close an issue?
Yes. Or pull requests, one or the other.
It's either issue and pull requests?
I don't actually know which one that is.
Does it say it on the dashboard?
I'm trying to find out.
Yeah, there used to be actually, it's funny, there used to be a metric called closed issue duration. Under probably put, I can't edit my previous comment.
Okay, it's issues.
Okay.
I just applied the filter to only see pull requests and the dashboard went empty.
Good solution.
I put in auger dot closed issue duration, and let me see if I have one for pull requests that's released.
You put it in the document here?
Oh, I didn't put it in the document because I'm stupid. Hold on a second.
Oh,
put it in the I'll put it in the document. That's
okay.
fine. This is closed issues.
You can clean up where these things go. I almost wonder. So this seems like a metric that is going to have a fair amount of tooling behind it between Grimoire Lab or Augur. You know what I mean? Like this time thing. So whether it's time to close a pull request or time to close an issue, I'm wondering. It seems like we're going to have under implementation visualizations and tools providing the metric filled out pretty robustly, right? So here's a bunch of visualization, here's a bunch of tools that will do this. So with respect to data collection strategies, does anybody have thoughts as if we would keep that as a subsection? You know, some of the metrics have data collection strategies like, it's kind of a thorny metric, here's how we propose you might go about collecting data to see this metric. In this case, it seems like the tooling has kind of thought through that data collection strategy, and we're essentially just saying use this tool. Does that make sense at all?
I have two opinions on this. One is I would like the metrics to be, you know, as much detail as possible to describe someone how to implement it and have it standardized so that we can have those kinds of bake-offs that we talked about a while ago, where we can pitch the different implementations and against each other and see how they compare in implementing what we've outlined. And then the other opinion that is opposite to that is let's keep it as simple as possible. We just want to give people an idea of what can be done and what metrics are available. And I don't know which opinion is stronger.
So the former opinion, the first opinion would actually say let's detail how you go about collecting this, and the latter says don't worry about it. Let's just show some pictures and point people to the tools.
So this is maybe something for the standardization discussion as well.
Oh, yeah, that we haven't even brought up. So, well, for the time being, I think this is probably pretty good. If Sean, if you're dropping a few things in there.
So, CHAOSS, we have endpoints that reflect different. They essentially perform the same function, but there were different names for them at different times. So issue duration is also included. And I'd have to go back and look at the history of the CHAOSS metric. At one time, both of those things were released CHAOSS metrics. It looks like issue duration is the one that continues to be a CHAOSS metric. And the other one is not the name of a CHAOSS metric. So I need to, those are, I guess we have two examples for issues. And I think it's in Andrew Brain's branch, the metrics that we have for pull requests. We've developed a ton of new metrics for pull requests, closing duration, and first response duration. We just haven't released them yet. They'll probably be in our next release. We're waiting to add things from people's branches because we're doing final testing on the next release.
Okay. Well, I made a few points, and I think we could probably pick this up in 2 weeks, but we're just adding a bit here to implementation stuff
Mhm.
with visualizations. I think I'll actually take
Yeah.
2 weeks here and just clean this up.
Yep.
And then we can talk about, to your point, Georg, whether or not we include data collection strategies to be
Part of it.
part of it.
Yeah, I mean, we have. Yeah, I mean, I could write a lot about data collection strategies on this metric.
Right, exactly. So is that, and then the
And
question,
there's
need that information, or do we just say just?
yeah. Well, so and there's also the phenomena that, I mean, I've developed queries. I haven't turned them into metrics yet, where there's a first closed date with a duration, and then a second closed, and sometimes a final. So I do a first closed and a final closed, because issues are sometimes reopened, and so you can choose which of those statistics you want to work with.
Okay.
So like, it can look sometimes like an issue gets. We don't know why an issue gets reopened, right? And only the owner of that repo understands the practices surrounding reopening an issue.
I mean, maybe that's would that be a filter? Probably.
Yeah, I think it probably should be, because if you just look at the final close date, you could be missing, like, sometimes they're reopens like a long time after they were originally closed.
Okay.
So you might want initial close date, or you might want final close date. I'm not dealing with everything in between.
Sense. All right. All right. We are nearing the top of the hour. I think we're
Yep. I got to get off to take a few minutes right before the Augur meeting to do whatever one might do. So I will see you all later.
training and the good feedback.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
Fine.